Welcome to the Nameless.
It was crying in my room, and it knew my name. It started begging me to stay. At first, I thought it was coming from outside. That's what made the most sense. A child, maybe, lost, hurt, wandering somewhere in the alley behind my building. I remember lying still in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide if I was actually hearing something or if my brain was just filling in the silence. Because it was late, really late, the kind of late where even the street dogs stopped barking. And then it said my name. Not loud, not whispered either, just clear, like someone standing right next to my bed, speaking normally. Don't go. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe for a second. Because I live alone, and I know what my apartment sounds like. The hum of the refrigerator, the occasional drip from the sink, the faint buzz of the hallway light outside my door. There's a rhythm to it, and this wasn't part of that. Please don't go. This time it sounded closer, not just in the room,
but lower, like it was sitting on the floor, right beside the bed. I turned my head slowly. The room was dark, but not completely. The curtains were thin, so the streetlight bled in just enough to outline shapes. Desk, chair, closet door, floor. Empty. There was nothing there, but I could still feel it. That sounds vague, I know, but if you've ever been completely alone and suddenly felt like you weren't, you know what I mean. I sat up. The crying stopped immediately. Not faded, not trailed off. Stopped, like it had been cut. I listened for a full minute. Nothing. Just the refrigerator again. The drip. Normal. I told myself I'd imagined it. Stress, lack of sleep, something like that. And honestly, I almost believed it. Until the next night. It started earlier that time. Not in the middle of the night. More like just after midnight. I was still awake, scrolling on my phone, when I heard something from the hallway. A soft, dragging sound, like fabric against the floor. I muted my phone, listened. It stopped. I waited. Then, a quiet sniffle. Not loud enough to echo, but not subtle enough to ignore. And again, I thought someone outside. Maybe a neighbor's kid. But then it came from inside my apartment, from just beyond my bedroom door. Hello? My voice sounded wrong. Too loud, too forced. No answer. I got out of bed, walked slowly toward the door. Every step felt heavier than it should have, like the air was thicker. I reached for the handle, paused, because the crying started again, right on the other side. Soft, uneven, like a child trying not to be heard. I don't know why, but I whispered, "Are you okay?" The crying stopped. And then, "Don't open it." Same voice, same tone. Flat, almost polite. I froze, my hand still on the handle. "Why?" I asked. No answer. Just silence again. And then, "Please don't leave me." That didn't make sense. I hadn't said I was leaving. I hadn't even opened the door. I pulled my hand away slowly, took a step back. The air felt normal again, like something had just moved away. I didn't open the door that night. I went back to bed, left the lights on, told myself it was just noise from another unit, echoing weirdly through the walls. That happens sometimes. Old buildings do that. But there was one detail I couldn't explain. When I checked in the morning, my bedroom door was already open. Not wide, just slightly, like it had been left that way. But I always close it, every night. I'm very particular about that. It's just a habit. I started noticing other things after that. Small things, easy to dismiss individually. My keys not where I left them. The bathroom light already on when I was sure I'd turned it off. A faint indentation on the couch cushion, like someone had been sitting there. Nothing dramatic, nothing undeniable, but consistent, and always just enough to make me hesitate, like my apartment wasn't behaving the way it used to. The voice didn't come back for a few days. And during that time, I almost forgot about it, or at least convinced myself it wasn't real, until I heard it again. This time it wasn't crying, it was humming, a soft, uneven tune. No melody I recognized, just something repetitive. I was in the kitchen when it started, standing at the sink, and the sound was coming from the living room. I turned off the faucet, listened. The humming continued, steady, unbothered, like it didn't care that I could hear it. I stepped into the doorway. The room looked normal, same as always, but the sound felt directional, like it was coming from the corner, near the couch. I took a step forward. The humming stopped, instantly. And then, "Why did you come back?" I didn't answer, because that question didn't make sense. I live there. There's nowhere else for me to come back from. "I didn't leave," I said. A pause. Then, "You always leave." The voice sounded disappointed. Not angry, not sad, just certain. And that's when I started feeling something else. Not fear, not yet. Confusion. Because it was talking like it knew me, like it had been there longer than I had. I left the apartment that day, went to a cafe, stayed there for hours, tried to think logically, tried to piece it together. Maybe someone was messing with me, a hidden speaker, a prank. But who and how? And why only at night, or when I was alone? I decided to ask the landlord, just casually. I asked if anyone had lived in the apartment before me. He looked confused, said, "No, you're the first." That didn't make sense. The building wasn't new. It looked at least 20 years old, maybe more. I asked about previous tenants, any complaints, any incidents. He just shook his head, said there were no records, that the unit had been unused. For how long? He didn't answer that part directly, just said, "A while." That was the first time something felt wrong outside the apartment. I tried looking up the building online. Nothing. No listings. No history. Not even on maps. The address existed, the street existed, but the building itself didn't show up, like it had been skipped. I even checked older satellite images. Same thing. An empty lot, where my apartment was supposed to be. That night, I didn't want to go back, but I did, because all my things were there, and because, logically, it had to be some kind of error, some missing data, something explainable. I unlocked the door, stepped inside. Everything looked normal, too normal, like it had been waiting. The air felt still, heavy again. I didn't turn on the lights. I don't know why. I just didn't. And then I heard it. Not crying, not humming, breathing, slow, uneven, from somewhere behind me, inside the apartment, but not in front of me, behind, near the door. I turned around. Nothing. But the breathing continued. Close, too close. "Are you leaving again?" I shook my head, even though it couldn't see me. "I live here," I said. A pause, longer this time. "Then, no you don't." That hit differently. Not because of what it said, but because of how certain it sounded. Like it wasn't arguing, it was correcting me. I felt something shift. Not physically, just internally. Like a doubt I hadn't considered before. I went to my room, closed the door, sat on the bed, waited. Nothing happened for a while. And then, a soft knock from inside the closet. 3 taps, evenly spaced. I didn't move. Another 3 taps. Then, "Don't leave me here." The voice sounded smaller this time. Not like it was farther away, but like it was weaker. Or maybe trying to sound that way. "I'm not leaving," I said. And I realized as soon as I said it, I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then, "Stay then." I didn't respond, because something about that felt wrong, like agreeing to something I didn't fully understand. I didn't open the closet that night, or the next, or ever again. But the voice kept coming back. Not every night, but often enough. Sometimes it cried, sometimes it just spoke. Always the same tone, always calm, always aware. It started saying things I hadn't told anyone. Small things, memories, details. Nothing deeply personal, but specific enough to feel intentional. And it kept asking me not to leave, even when I wasn't planning to, even when I was just sitting there, existing. Like the idea of me leaving was constant. I tried recording it. Nothing showed up, just silence. I tried inviting a friend over. The voice didn't appear at all. The apartment felt completely normal when someone else was there. Too normal, like it was hiding. Eventually, I stopped inviting people, stopped talking about it, because I realized something. The voice only ever spoke when I was alone, and it only ever spoke about me leaving, never about anything else. It didn't ask questions, it didn't explain itself, it just repeated that one idea. Don't leave, stay. You always leave. And over time, I started questioning something I hadn't before. Not the voice, not the apartment, but my own memory. Because I couldn't find any record of me moving in. No lease documents, no emails, no messages, nothing. Even my bank statements didn't show rent payments. It was like I had always just been there, which didn't make sense, because I remember moving, I remember unpacking, I remember choosing that place, don't I? The last time I heard it, it didn't sound like a child anymore. Not exactly. Still small, still soft, but clearer, more certain. I was standing by the door, keys in hand, just thinking about leaving for good. And then, if you go, I waited. You won't come back this time. I turned around. The apartment looked the same, but it felt empty, completely empty, for the first time. No presence, no weight, nothing. And that scared me more than anything else. Why? I asked. No answer. I waited. Still nothing. Just silence. I opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and for a second, I couldn't remember what my apartment looked like. Not clearly, just vague shapes, like a place I'd seen once, a long time ago. I turned back. The door was still open, but the inside looked wrong. Not different, just unfamiliar. And that's when I realized something I haven't been able to shake since. I don't know if the voice was asking me to stay in the apartment or if it was asking me to stay with it. Because the longer I think about it, the less sure I am that I was ever the one who lived there.